Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We're going to talk about that fight with these big old finger quotes. See these big old fingers? See these big old finger quotes? Fight on Friday night. We got some, if you haven't heard, we got your questions. We got all of this. But first, just curious. Sean, maybe you can help me out. Can you remind me? I feel like I lost track. Who is the best team in the NFL?
Your Detroit Lions.
That's right. Like, I love the fact that there ain't even no mystery about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody understands that that is the answer to the question. Do you know how good they are? They so good that they just beat the Jaguars 52-6. And as I speak, the time is 12:03 Eastern time, and Doug Peterson still got a job. And the only rationale I got, Sean, for how that man still got a job is they understand sometimes you just going to play against the Lions.
I think their organization's like, well, we'll give it another week. You know, we were inevitably going to get beat down by the Lions. That's bad.
Yo, they got their bye week right now, okay? They got their bye week. How does that man have a job? How has he still not? And he so clearly wants to be fired at every turn. He ain't trying to fight for this job. He ain't got no explanation for what it is. I don't know how he's supposed to do anything with the other Mac Jones, the one they got as the quarterback, not the real live American hero that I know. I don't know what exactly it is that they supposed to be out here doing. I don't. But you're supposed to fire the coach at this point. Like, I thought that if they had lost that game to the Patriots over there in Tally Ho, that they would have had a chance to fire him, but they won that game. And then I was like, okay, you just wait till the bye week. And then they lost 52-6. But again, you go lose under a circumstance like this. We're going to pull up a little quote for you right fast from the homie Kirby Joseph. Going to be honest with you. I ain't really know who he was until a couple weeks ago, but he plays corner for them. He's the other, not corner safety. He's the other safety. Got Brian Branch, and then they got him. Brian Branch, who I finally stopped calling Brian Burns because what can I say? I'm a day one Detroit Lions fan. You get the details right. Anyway, I want you to listen to this man talk about what it is to play against the Detroit Lions.
Exhilarating is it to beat a team that bad? I mean, second time this year you guys put up 50.
For real? That's the second time? I thought it was like third time. Did we do somebody else like that? We got the ass though. Close. We got the ass.
Cowboys probably should have been 50.
If you really not coming ready to play, like we gonna give you BTA for sure.
Do you think that's what it is? Them not coming, like, because I know Xavier McKinney said earlier that you guys seem like you're trying to embarrass people. I don't know.
We just play football. If you're not coming with it to win, then you gonna get your ass whooped. Like, really.
I mean, let us be clear. Y'all do be trying to embarrass people. Y'all ran a hook and ladder to the right tackle against Dallas. Y'all be trying to embarrass people. It's okay. It's part of your charm that you be trying to embarrass people. But that's it right there. You'll come ready to win. You're going to get your ass whooped. And everybody seems to know this. Like, that's the wildest thing I think to me about this team. Even coming off a game where they threw 5 interceptions but still won. They are showing up ready to play, apparently, at all times. And you are going to be the ones to get your ass whooped. Now, I would also note that it became also indisputable that they're the best team in the NFL after the Chiefs took that L to the Buffalo Bills. Now, I have been saying this whole time, and I know how this goes because nobody wants to feel like they're wrong. I'm going to give you an example of a similar situation, right? I don't know how many of y'all remember this, but it was about 13 years ago, and Denver had this quarterback, and it was this dude named Tim Tebow. Now, I know that at this point, there might be some youngsters who have started listening to this show, maybe you in your teens, your early 20s, and you have heard of Tim Tebow, but you don't really remember what the situation was, but it's very simple. Tim Tebow played at Florida, and we knew 2 big things about him, that he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was about that Jesus life. He was, as somebody said when I was in graduate school, he was wicked into Jesus, right? I didn't find him to be insufferably into Jesus, but very much so into Jesus all the same. It became a very important thing because he started playing for the Broncos, and the Broncos went on a nice little run of winning games, except there was this one thing about it, man. Tim Tebow was cheeks. in Jesus' name, he was cheeks. Okay. And I know that if he could have been better, he would have been better because he wouldn't have been disrespecting Jesus like that. You know what I mean? It's just he's just not that kind of guy. Like, there ain't no way in the world that he would have been representing so tough for Jesus if he wasn't trying his best. Right. So anyway, he was cheeks, but the Broncos kept winning. And they kept winning on like last minute game winning drives. And so I'll never forget that it was after his first game, they played against the Dolphins. And I remember I hit up a dude on the Dolphins and I was like, yo, tell me what you got to say about Tebow. He's like, worst quarterback I've ever seen. I said, okay, cool. I wasn't losing my mind from what I saw on television. Anyway, I remember I did the Around the Horn call and I watched all the panelists slowly. I believe it was Bob Ryan, Woody Page, and Tim Kalishaw. And I remember them kind of sort of talking themselves into it. And I was kind of new to the Around the Horn world. And I remember just being flustered and saying incredulously, he's the worst quarterback I've ever seen. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, right? I couldn't believe that I was alone on this island and everybody couldn't see what the thing was. But then week after week, they kept winning and they kept winning and they kept winning. And I watched people just gradually get defeated on television and feel like they had to come around because, like, they had come to believe that he was a winner, but only because they were winning, right? Like, you hear me talk about that thing with the Detroit Lions. I'm kind of playing when I say that they're winners. Now, losers, I think that losers absolutely exist. Winners is a little bit more of an amorphous concept, right? So anyway, I just watched week after week as people really just started coming up with stuff and reasons why what they were seeing wasn't what they were seeing, because in the end, the Broncos was winning some games, all right? In a way, that's what's happening with the Chiefs. Now, hey. The Chiefs are not the worst team I've ever seen, so they do not pass the Tebow test in that way. But we have seen them barely squeak these out week after week after week, and we had just tried to talk ourselves into the idea that they was winners, right? Like, hey, they know how to do it. It's not a coincidence that they could figure out how to get there in the end and win. You're right. It's not a coincidence they could figure out how to get there in the end and win. It's also not a coincidence that they always losing late in these games. It's not a coincidence that they can't seem to put anybody away. Why ain't we talking about them their second 50-point victory, except you thought it was their third because they had another game where it felt like they put up 50 on somebody? Because they're not that good. They're just not, right? Doesn't matter why at this point. They're just not that good. And I said it doesn't matter why, but I will come with a bit of a reason why, and I've seen people talk about this, and it's because they don't have good play at tackle. And I don't know about you guys, but I remember that one time they went to the Super Bowl after the COVID season. It was after they won the Super Bowl the year before, and I was positive that they were going to win a Super Bowl over Tampa Bay, over Tom Brady in Tampa Bay's home stadium. Because, look, man, I wasn't betting against Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes played one of the best games I've ever seen anybody play. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care what anybody else tells me. It was the most impressive display I think that I have ever seen. Maybe not the most excellent execution, but maybe the most impressive display I'd ever seen. But I remember that game started, and they put up the offensive line for the Chiefs, and I saw that Mike Remmers, who Von Miller should have shared his Super Bowl MVP with because of the way he was running through him when he played for the Carolina Panthers that year in that Super Bowl. I saw that Mike Remmers was going to be the left tackle, not the right tackle, which is what he played when Von Miller ran through him. And I realized, boys, I made a terrible mistake. And they went out there and they caught that L. They ain't got it, man. They ain't got it. Buffalo, by the way, is now 9-2. I am convinced at this point that no football crowd is more invested in winning a football game than the crowd is in Buffalo. I don't have the greatest explanation for you, but nobody seems happier about when they win in. Their stadium feels most constructed like a college stadium, right? It's got kind of like that low flat bowl around it. You can tell they did like an addition for those upper decks, and it just feels like it has a whole different sort of energy. And that game got started early and Buffalo got rolling, and I was like, yeah, they're going to win this game. Like, it's just sometimes you can watch and see what's going on, and you just like, yeah, the road team is not coming up with this one. And they got it done. Josh Allen, I thought Josh Allen played a good game. I did not think that Josh Allen played a great game, but he played one of those games that make you wish that Josh Allen was your quarterback, right? This big old strong son bitch, and he make throws that not everybody can make, and it's just so much fun to watch. And he's like, yo, jump on my back. Okay, cool. We gonna make this happen. They did that. That's what he did on that run at the end of the game. And I said after that game, I was like, hey, man, or during that game, I was like, 12 minutes left. We 12 minutes away from his Josh Allen, the MVP, and the A block of every sports TV show. And I feel like I watched at least one that really went in that direction. I can't speak for the rest of them, but that's how the cycle works. Josh Allen has not played MVP level good. He hasn't, okay? It's interesting that we just don't want to think about it, but maybe the quarterback of the best team in the NFL and who threw four touchdowns and 400 yards in this game against Jacksonville, maybe that's the guy that should be your MVP. Or maybe the guy that's played the best all year long, Lamar Jackson, maybe that guy should be the MVP. But that's not how we do this. You see what I'm saying? It goes in that direction. It's kind of building toward this the Josh Allen MVP season. Good for Buffalo because they're really good. I wouldn't be surprised if they wound up going to the Super Bowl because it feels like anybody can win the AFC, right? Baltimore, interestingly enough, anybody can get them. They can get anybody, but I wouldn't have expected that they would lose a game where they didn't give up a touchdown. Like that defense. They my great friend, the late great Steve White used to say, man, that defense, they some Burger Kings. Have it your way. They didn't give up any touchdowns, right? Lamar Jackson, again against Pittsburgh, did not play well, but he played at the end like he was Lamar Jackson, right? Like when it came down to the end, it was like, all right, cool, I'm going to get this touchdown for us right fast. And I don't know what the hell happened on that play at the end, but he looked like part of the reason why you want to do like Lamar Jackson is it don't matter how bad the rest of the game went. You need it in this moment. I can get it for you. And he did that and that's why I look at that. I'm like, there's no reason to think if you thought Lamar was the MVP going in, there's no reason to stop because that's an MVP caliber move right there, right? He still got that done. But anybody can get them. I guess somebody can get the Lions. I don't know which one of y'all it is, though. I'm just saying. I don't see how. You wish they was your team, right? You do. I don't blame you. Only some of us were willing to declare our allegiance early enough to allow us to feel like we didn't get in on a bandwagon. I had somebody accuse me of being a bandwagon fan. I'm like, not true. I was rooting for them when they didn't go to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what kind of dude I am, man. I got in way early in like 2021. Way early, man. Or was it 2022? I don't know, but it was I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I got on before some Lions fans got back on. Y'all ain't been rooting for them all the time. Otherwise, you'd be a much less happy person. I mean, I guess some of y'all are unhappy people. Anyway, we all in this together, and it's cool. By next week, I would have learned the words to the theme song. Go Lions, one pride. The NBA is in full swing, which means you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite teams only on Prize Picks. You can make a Prize Picks lineup between the NFL and the NBA in as little as 60 seconds. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hearing it from me, let's hear from our expert picker. Sean, how them picks going for you?
I guess I'm solely an expert picker because of the sheer volume of picks I make. But, the picking's been good. And with the NBA and NFL back, I can make picks between both leagues. And with the flex play, I can still cash out if my lineup isn't perfect. But make sure you stick around for the end of the show to hear my upcoming picks. And if you know me, you know I'm always picking more.
So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Life doesn't happen bi-weekly, so why should payday? The money you earn can be in your hands today with EarnIn. EarnIn is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day and up to $750 per pay period. So if you need a last-minute birthday present, new Detroit Lions gear, or even an upcoming event you want to go to, EarnIn is the best way to pay for those things. Just download the EarnIn app and verify your paycheck. Then access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. Sean, tell the audience how easy it is to sign up.
Make Earnin a part of your financial routine and join Earnin's over 4 million customers. Download Earnin today, spelled EARNIN, in the Google Play or Apple Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in The Right Time with Bomani Jones under podcast. When you sign up, it'll really help the show. The Right Time with Bomani Jones under podcast. Earnin is a financial tech company, not a bank. Cash outs are based on your available earnings. Standard cash outs take 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Option to expedite your transfer for a fee. Tips are voluntary and don't affect the service. See cash out user agreement for details. Services not available in all states.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's take a moment to say thank you to someone in your life, whether it's your therapist, loved one, or a friend who really listens to you. It's always helpful to show some gratitude. Sean, is there anyone in your life you want to send some thanks to?
You know, for me, Bo, I'm always thankful for my friends and family who have been with me through all the good times and the bad. And, you know, while this month, especially with Thanksgiving coming up, is all about gratitude towards those people in our lives, there's another person we don't get to thank enough, and that's ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything in this crazy, crazy world. And that isn't easy. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to people in your life, including yourself.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bomani today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bomani. Sean, did you watch that shit?
Unfortunately, yes.
Why?
I was at a bar. Someone had it on their phone. We all huddled around. It was a complete waste of time.
Look, man, I was Sam I Am about watching that fight. I absolutely refused. And it was one of those things about that Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight and me not watching it that, like, when people asked me about it and I said I wasn't watching it because, you know, people got respect for me, it then made them kind of look inward and say, like, different stuff about themselves. So, for example, back in the day, my daddy was so gangster about his that he ain't watched the March on Washington. My mama was at the March on Washington. My daddy did not watch. My daddy thought that it was a level of compromise unbefitting a true revolution. So, man, my dad's the sort of dude that people respect. So he would show up places and people would be embarrassed that they was watching the March on Washington. Like, in my head, I had imagined them hitting the remote control and turning it off, except there wasn't no remote control in 1963. If he walked in on you and that shit was on, what was you gonna do?
That's all that was on.
Yes. What you gonna do? Run over and turn to the other channel? You know what I'm saying? There wasn't even no channel 26 by then. It was not an option. But anyway, no, I was not going to watch that fight. There was no way it was gonna work. Like, CNN called me. I did the show with Laura Coates, and I told them going in, like, look, man, this is a farce. Like, we need everything that I'm going to talk about on the basis of this has to go to the place where it's a farce, okay? And so she was still prepared to ask me questions like this was real, and I was incapable of pretending like it was real. And she's like, who do you think is going to win the fight? I'm like, it ain't going to be us. That's all I know. How am I supposed to know who's going to win that fight, right? All I have seen is a couple of clips. Like, I promise you, and what's so wild about it, and I've said this many times before. I've said it in different contexts, and I need you to understand this right now, okay? I appreciate all of you who listen to my show, who consume the content that I produce. Like, I do, and I think all of you guys know how much I appreciate you on that. But you also know something I have told many of you many times. Never, and I mean never, ever, never assume that I am as whack as you. no matter what we're talking about here, I might be just as whack as you, right? But you should never be sure. Ever. Ever. I have been working on this anti-whackness campaign for so long that you should stop and ask yourself, if you feel a little bit whack about what you're doing, no. Like, I should be doing anti-whackness seminars, okay? I feel like that would run counter to a lot of DEI initiatives because whack people are people too, right? We got to let them participate. But I am anti-whackness. That is me. I'm not trying to shut it down. I'm trying to ramp it up. I am anti-whackness. And that fight was whackness, and y'all knew that fight was whackness, but y'all got yourselves caught all up in some hype, and thereby you had to watch it. And then you're like, well, I'm not really paying for it, but you are paying for it because you pay for the Netflix and you watched it. Let me ask you a question. Did you go to somebody's house to watch it? Did you have people over to watch it? Because that's the real test. I'm going to be honest with you. Sean, I've heard about people like you who maybe watched it at a bar or whatever it is. Did anybody have a fight party for this? I ain't heard nothing about that. Did anybody have a fight party?
I have friends who, like combat sports, but the only fight party that was scheduled was for the Saturday night John Jones fight, an actual good fight. Not the I didn't get a single invite for the Tyson Jake Paul fight.
By the way, I have never been to an MMA fight party. Maybe you have, but I can't lie. That sounds like a sausage party.
1,000%.
Like, I just don't feel like the MMA fight party. That's no. Like a boxing fight party. Oh no. They gonna be some work. MMA fight party. No. That sounds like the Kielbasa Open.
I have a great story about that. My friend brought his wife to an MMA watch party, and when she showed up, she was like, "Why are we here again?" And they were like, "Oh, it's an MMA party," and she immediately called an Uber and left.
Yeah. They don't even want you there. You know what I'm saying?
No.
But anyway, that's how you know this wasn't real, man. That's how you know this wasn't a farce. Two things. One, wasn't nobody really talking about having no fight party as far as I could know. And number two, and it's the way you know it wasn't real, it was a white man fighting a black man, and America was not divided. Yet somehow people were going to watch. Think about that. That's how you know this wasn't real, okay? Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this fight or what it was and everybody coming away feeling so unsatisfied, and again, I don't know why you didn't think that you would come away unsatisfied, but everybody coming away so unsatisfied, I want to talk about something that's a little bit larger, something that's a little bit broader. Hold on, let me tell the people on the internet that I'm talking about that fight that they watched that I did not watch. Again, never assume I'm as whack as you.
We'll get that retweeted too. I will say, Bo, I think as someone who did watch the fight and was around people who were like kind of somewhat excited, I think everyone forgot that Mike Tyson's 58 even throughout the entire like presser and the advertising of it. And then they saw him in the ring and they're like, oh my God, he's an old man.
Well, I think a big part of it with him being 58, first of all, never seen a fight where the interview in the locker room is between the fighter and his son Amir, who I met once. Yo, this is a true story. So me and Pablo had gone to do PTI the summer of 2017, I guess, right? This is in advance of High Noon. We trying to get people accustomed to the idea of us. And so we're there, and I got on this Mike Tyson t-shirt that says, Thuns Out, Guns Out. And I'm assuming it's Mike Tyson license, right? Yeah, Thuns Out, Guns Out. That's what it is. It should have said Thuns Out, Guns Out, but it didn't. It said Thuns Out, Guns Out. But anyway, I got the shirt on. And I'm in the elevator, me and Pablo, and his kid with a real big neck. He look at me and Pablo, and look at me and is like, yo, I see your shirt, man. That's my dad's shirt. I was like, oh, for real? Cool. And I let him walk away, at which point Pablo looks at me and goes, did he say Mike Tyson was his dad? And I'm like, yes, I thought so. I was entertaining the possibility maybe his dad designed the shirt. The problem that I had was with the life that Mike Tyson has lived, I wasn't sure, like, how he felt about Mike Tyson being his dad. Does that make sense? Like, I didn't know what the love situation was in the house.
Was he in on the joke in a like warm way, or was he like, nah?
Yeah, or like Like, when's the last time you talked to him? Like,
Right,
I don't have
right.
any answers to any of these questions. So I'm just letting it slide. But anyway, that interview that Mike did where he said, I love you at the end, and then he kissed the beer on the cheek, and it was so, like, touching. And then Mike walked away, and for whatever reason, the Netflix dude panned down, and you saw Mike Tyson's bare naked ass. It didn't have to be that way. People are like, oh, cameraman did it by accident. That cameraman ain't do that by no accident.
He sees the whole frame. You know, he
Yeah.
chooses where to zoom in and out of.
Even if he doesn't see the frame, he see Mike Tyson got his ass out.
Exactly.
He didn't just show, he been in there, right? He decided to do that for whatever reason. But anyway, I've talked a while about this, and I've tried to, like, change the focus of the way that I do things. I hope that some of you have noticed. I hope that you have found it somewhat refreshing. If I haven't done a good job of conveying this clearly through my work, then that's on me. But what I've tried to do is I'm trying to focus in more on sports, be a little bit less, like, hyper analytical about it. And, you know, I don't want to say mean about things because I don't think I'm typically mean. But what I'm being critical of, I want to change the way I look at things, and I really want to lean in more about the things that we love about this, right? The things that make us feel good, because I think that we get in this to feel. And I don't think we talk nearly enough in sport about why it is that we actually love this stuff, or why we keep coming back, and why we talk about it all the time. And why, even to this day, man, I have people ask me all the time that they think I could be doing these larger, more important things to talk about in this world. No, man, I still find this stuff enjoyable to watch. I still find it enjoyable to talk about, right? I still find it interesting. It's kind of like Keith Richards talked about holding a guitar, and he's like, 6 strings and all these notes. How could you ever get bored? Like, I still really dig this. But I do think that overall, we don't talk about the things anymore that are truly why we're here. And this fight pointed out something that I think we need to really kind of take heed of and be careful what sorts of things that we offer these companies and these enterprises positive reinforcement about, and that they keep giving them to us. Something that is fundamental that we need to understand and get, right? Don't ever let them tell you that sports is entertainment. It's not. Sports is entertaining. Sports may entertain you, but sports is not entertainment. And as you hear me say that, there's a good chance it may land with you in a certain way. Some of you may push back. Some of you, it may be the thing that you've always wanted to hear. But I think something worth pointing out, and I say this as somebody who does think that a lot of people take sports entirely too seriously, right? Like, I think there's any question about that, it can foster a lot of negativity that comes out here. But I think I've talked about this in interviews. But if you haven't read any of those interviews, it's fine. I did a show on HBO called Game Theory for a couple of seasons. And when they asked me to do the show, they presented me a deck, and I looked at the deck, and it was very clear that this show was geared toward a comedian. In fact, the original host of the show was a comedian. And I remember I read through the deck, and I did my first Zoom call with all the people. I said, hey, man, I'll tell you right now, this deck don't work for me. Like, this deck is for a comedian. But I'm the only person, but this show works for me, and I'm the person you need to do this show. And my rationale was, all these sports TV shows that people do, like these sports comedy shows, those shows tend not to work because people take sports too seriously for you to just make a joke out of it, right? Like, if you're going to be the person that comes in to make a joke out of sports, you got to be somebody that those people respect, where they believe your opinion got some level of gravity, because they take this stuff entirely too seriously for you to just make a joke out of it. That's how this goes with sports. And I just think we have so many examples in so many places of people taking it incredibly seriously that what I'm saying on one hand seems very obvious, but on the other hand, they still try to give you some bullshit like Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And what was so wild about it to me was how many people showed up. Not just the people in the crowd, like the 80,000 people. The idea that there were celebrities who wanted to be there, like this was Tyson, like this was Frazier Ali in 1971. Right? Like, people actually wanted to be there and be on camera for this obvious farce. And I'm like, that's not what this stuff is, and it's not what it's supposed to be. Okay? I can find it wild enough and somewhat frustrating that, like, real live boxers, actual professionals, cannot generate the same heat as a fake boxer and an old boxer in a fight where it looked, from what people have told me and from the little bit of clips that I saw, that everybody had an agreement to go home not hurting. Like, I think Mike Tyson was in the house for the fight at Madison Square Garden the next day. You know what I mean? That motherfucker 58 years old and just had a boxing match. If it was a real boxing match, he'd still be in bed. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we allow these companies to turn everything around these games into some level of spectacle, and the spectacle outweighs the competition, we as fans are going to wind up in a really, really, really bad place, because we see this happen across the board with all kinds of other things. Music is a great example of this, that once that big money gets in, they start stripping away from the essence of it. You see it in its own way in the movie game. That same thing is going to happen. Sports is the place where it's the hardest for them to do this, because the competitions are so fundamental and so unscripted, and the urgency of the game is dictated by the worker bees in a way that overall the money has not been able to ruin, though they have tried. Okay? But I think with the NBA, they've lost the plot on what it is that people are actually into when it comes to basketball, and we're starting to see ratings reflect that. That's a longer discussion for another day. But I think they tried to create a product that isn't truly in line with what people really want. And I think that in a much different way, what you saw happen with that fight was a display of a product that people didn't want, because people want their sports to matter. People want their sports to be real. They didn't get something real, and then they all looked up and were like, I can't believe I fell for this in the end. And yeah, you did. I'm not even really going to be that hard on you at this point about it, right? You fell for it, okay? Anti-Wagness, join the movement, but y'all fell for it. Got you. It's the people higher up that I'm looking at, and I'm like, hey, man, we want the real thing. Stop giving us the fake, wherever the fake may come from. We want the real thing. I would also like to say one last thing before I go. And this is to you, Netflix. Now, my understanding that a lot of you guys had some problems as you tried to watch the fight on Netflix, and it gave you some buffering and everything else. And look, people complained about that with this silly little fight, but in the end, they were only kind of invested. They didn't really care. It was announced that Beyonce will be playing halftime of the Ravens and Texas game that is on Christmas Day. And Netflix, I'm here to tell you right now, fake boxing fans will let it slide. That hive will be buzzing and stinging your asses to kingdom come if you don't get this thing rolling by halftime of that game right there. I don't think Ted Sarandos is out here listening to this show, but if you are, you know, some people better be in there pulling some all-nighters, because they going to be all biters. Bzzz, oh, damn, I got stung in the ass again. Finding the perfect gift can be tough, especially one that won't end up in the back of a closet. This holiday season, do what I'm doing and give the gift of planning unforgettable experiences with Viator. Sean, what kind of holiday travel plans do you have for this upcoming season?
Well, I'll be spending a weekend in Vegas, and I'm excited to use Viator for that trip. And you can book guided tours, activities, excursions, and more. Viator has over 300,000 travel experiences to choose from, so it's easy to find something that everyone on your list will enjoy. Plus, they have real traveler reviews, so you can pick the perfect experience with confidence.
And with free cancellation and 24/7 customer support, you can gift worry-free, knowing that plans can change, but great memories last forever. Whether it's a unique way to explore their own city or an adventure on their next trip, a Viator experience is a gift you won't regret. So skip the predictable presents and make this holiday one to remember with Viator. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator. Peloton has what you need to keep you on track to your goals no matter what season of life you're in. I've been trying to get my way back to 100% after a little injury, but Peloton has me covered each step of the way. Peloton has all sorts of classes depending on how hard you want to train. If you want to take it easy some days, you can take a lighter cycling or cardio course to help you with your recovery. They have programs to help keep you on track, from strength training programs you can use at the gym to meditation and yoga for the postgame. Plus, you can challenge yourself anywhere with Peloton's all-access membership. You can work out where you need to, like at home, on your bike, tread, and row, or take your favorite classes on the go and at the gym with the app. The app is super convenient, and I genuinely use it every week. And in this season, for me specifically, Peloton's wide range of stretching and recovery classes are perfect to my body moving at 100%. So make sure you download the Peloton app today. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Polo, here's our first one.
Hey, this is Reese Rogers. I'm a staff writer at Wired, and I recently wrote about the surge of users on Blue Sky. Following the re-election of Donald Trump, an influx of new users downloaded Blue Sky as an alternative option to X, formerly known as Twitter and now owned by Elon Musk. These downloads pushed Blue Sky to the very top of the charts for free apps on iPhones, ahead of Meta's Threads, another social media competitor. So many new people signed up that Blue Sky recently crashed and went down a few times. It's worth noting that Threads still has millions of more active users, around 275 million compared to Blue Sky's 15 million users. Though, to put this in context, Threads is built by one of the largest companies in Silicon Valley, while Blue Sky is currently maintained by a team of about 20 people. Even though it looks similar to Twitter, Blue Sky has many more options for users. You can create unique feeds to customize what posts you want to see, and you can even host your own server, which is cool for power users, but probably way more involved than the average person online cares about. Now, do you really need an alternative to posting on Twitter? That's up to you. Part of my job is testing out new software, and it's true. I'm enjoying trying out Blue Sky right now, but I'm also limiting my usage. Spending less time mindlessly scrolling online and more time hanging out with friends in real life always leaves me feeling the best.
Guys, just saying, all of us should ask ourselves a very important question. Why? What for? What for? What for? Are you addicted? Because you might be addicted. Look, I do a lot of that same scrolling too. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, though, I changed the way I looked at a lot of this after I watched that documentary, The Social Dilemma on Netflix. And all those people who work in social media say none of them let their kids use it. None of them. Across the board. I am not sold that the idea of simply moving to a different platform is going to make things better. But I have said this before, Sean. I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but I'm going to be honest. This is one of the most important things I think I ever came up with. If you are on social media, you are there to do one of two things. You are there, when you post, rather. You are there to inform or perform. And ask yourself why you need to perform. Because ain't all y'all informing, right? And so people have been hitting me up on the, are you going to go to Blue Sky? We'll take the content over there, certainly. Will I be there becomes its own. I don't know about that, man. Like, I got to be honest with you, man. I kind of stopped. I started only looking at the For You tab on Twitter and not on following because it was starting to make me think less of my friends.
I will say, Bo, I mentioned you before the show because I pulled up Blue Sky and there was a message from Spencer Hall saying we got to get Bomani here, and Mina replied, and I know both of them have texted you separately. This was the first week where I felt like it was of a good time when Twitter used to be good, but then to your point again, it's Blue Sky might be good in some regards, but it's still just another social media app. And I liked Reese's point at the end of his article. Is like, maybe you guys should just get off and log off and maybe go outside and do something that's a little bit more productive.
My belief is that the entire experiment has been broken. I don't think that you can algorithm success into this thing, right? I think the whole thing, it's a wrap on, personally. That's my read on it. Like, if you want to keep going with it, that's fine. I just think you should ask yourself why exactly it is that you should keep going with it. And a lot of it is because you are attention craving. And if that's you and you're comfortable with that, that's fine. But you might want to ask yourself if that is what it is that you're doing. Because at some point, the disaster it will become the same disaster that you're running from. because the people invested in making this one site a disaster are invested in making all of it a disaster because it's a lot deeper than just simply having a social network for you to participate in. They can put in all the controls they say they're going to put in, but at some point the problem's going to come, and then what are we going to do? Just try to go find another one? Nah, I'm good for right now. Maybe I'll meet y'all over there in a little while. But don't worry, if you want to see right time content, we'll have it over there for you.
All right, here's our next one.
Hi, my name is Kristen V. Brown, and I'm a staff writer at The Atlantic. Today, I want to tell you about a recent story of mine, entitled Genetic Discrimination is Coming for Us All. Your DNA contains within it the specific code that makes you, you. Information about your family history, diseases you're at risk for, and even your personality. For a long time, researchers have worried that genetic information could be used to discriminate against people. Recently, I found evidence that this is already happening. In the US, there's a federal law that protects against some forms of genetic discrimination, but it only prevents discrimination by employers and health insurers. Life, long-term care, and disability insurance companies are free to ask people for DNA testing results and to use those results in issuing policies. I found several people with rare genes that put them at risk for conditions like ALS and breast cancer who were denied policies because of their DNA. But this isn't only a problem for those of us at risk for rare genetic conditions. Millions and millions of people have now shared their DNA with doctors and consumer testing companies, and researchers are now trying to predict the risk of more complicated and common traits like Alzheimer's and diabetes. Genetic predictions don't have to be right for many kinds of companies to find them interesting. All of us have glitches somewhere in our genome. The question is, who wants to take advantage of that information?
I know somebody once who was having a conversation with his father, and he felt as though his father was about to come clean about some transgressions of his past. And that person said to his father, hey, if something ever happens, I want to be just as surprised as everybody else. And that's kind of how I feel about whether I got some like damning illness just waiting down the pike for me. Can't we all just find out together? I don't want to know this in the beginning. And I guess maybe the insurance company could tell me, like if you don't want to know why the policy is going to be so high, it's kind of whatever. But, it's here or whatever. Like, no, we're not supposed to know all this stuff, man. But the whole insurance game kind of tripped up. Like there's places now where like home insurance, for example, they're not even offering it no more. With the climate change stuff and everything else. Sean, if I'm not mistaken, another big part of this is that people this living forever thing. I don't know how much that like ties into what's going on, although I guess for like life insurance, that shouldn't be the problem, but it's still just, if they could find out, they gon' find out. And it's not to help you save money.
I'm all about the less I know, the better mentality. And you're mentioning of like, it's a bleak thing to say, but like people just aren't dying. Like old people aren't dying as much. And like my grandma, who we finally put into like a senior apartment, not like senior care housing, but It took her like 4 or 5 years to get approved and to wait because there were rooms not opening up. And it was like, it's just like everything's backed up now because everyone's so much healthier.
Dog, I had never considered that, like, in order for a spot to open up.
Literally.
Yikes. That's, I had stepped into the darkness. I hadn't really thought about all of that. But no, there's a thing. I was talking to somebody about it. It's a real thing. It's called the silver tsunami. It is that we're about to have a system that is largely predicated on keeping people alive and a lot more people to keep alive. And we don't really have the facilities to support all the, like the wave of older people that are going to come into this system. It's a lot going on here. Yes, I entirely put that. I didn't have anything interesting to say about this topic. It is entirely there just to scare you to death.
Here's our last one.
My name is David Zipper, and I'm a senior fellow at the MIT Mobility Initiative and a contributing writer at Vox. I wrote a recent story in Vox explaining why many of the worst streets in American cities are managed by states, which prevents local leaders from fixing them. States control just 14% of road miles within cities, but fully 2/3 of all urban crash deaths occur there. A good example is Roosevelt Boulevard in Philadelphia, which locals have dubbed the Corridor of Death. It was originally built a century ago, connecting Center City with burgeoning communities in North and Northeast Philadelphia. The city has long since expanded, and driving or walking on Roosevelt Boulevard is now stressful and dangerous. But Philadelphia can't do anything about it because Roosevelt Boulevard is controlled by the state of Pennsylvania. This problem is nationwide, and it's historic. States started building highways in the early 1900s as a way to help drivers quickly travel between cities. But urban areas have since expanded, and many places that were then rural are now dense neighborhoods. Their residents worry about a lot more than car speed. They care about issues like safety, emissions, and transit access. But after decades of trying to maximize car speed, many state departments of transportation dismissed local requests to revise those roads to make them work better for pedestrians, cyclists, and transit riders, because the solutions often involve slowing down traffic. The states are basically stiff-arming cities' requests for help. In Madison, Wisconsin, for example, the state has blocked a new bus rapid transit line from having a dedicated lane during rush hour, exactly when a dedicated lane would do the most to speed up bus service and attract more riders. As for how to fix things, one promising approach comes from Portland, Oregon, where 82nd Avenue has been a decrepit and unsafe eyesore for decades. An overhaul would have cost the state of Oregon hundreds of millions of dollars, and the Department of Transportation didn't want to do it. The state offered to give 82nd Avenue to Portland, but the city couldn't afford the improvements either. The solution came through federal COVID stimulus dollars, which helped the state and city negotiate a transfer to local control. Now 82nd Avenue is slated to receive curb cuts, trees, and new bus lanes. We may need a federal solution to fix failing city roads under state control nationwide. Otherwise, these highways will remain an ongoing drag on urban safety and quality of life. For more information, check out the story on Vox or on my website, davidzipper.com.
So basically, Sean, the problem is classic, oh, it ain't my fault. Can't hear you.
Just no one wants to pay for anything, you know? It's the classic sentiment between government, state, local.
Well, isn't that like the MTA issue in New York, that the state controls the subway?
Exactly.
And the only people that care about it are the people that live in the city that pay all the bills for this place?
LA is the same way, right? Like California state is not going to do anything in LA because they're like, LA has all this money and all this stuff. And so like, that's why bike lanes are so hard to come by, or bus lanes. And it's just, it's a mess, you know, it's roads versus bikers versus bus riders versus pedestrians.
But my thing is, it's still a road in your state.
Right.
Like, what else are you doing if you're not dealing with roads in your state? I don't.
Just tax dollars,
we're doomed.
You know?
Yeah, we're doomed.
A great prompt for this week. It was, have you ever had a project or worked on a project with someone who was quite dumb? And we got some project stuff, but we also got people just talking about someone dumb in their life. So a lot of good submissions. We'll start with this one.
Hold on. I want to start with something right fast.
Yeah.
Just an observation I realized about my life. My parents are college professors. I grew up going to school in a town that was right down the street from a black college. I would be at that college after school all the time. Then I went to college, then I went to grad school and did all these things or whatever. But I realized when I started doing radio and taking phone calls that I had really been dealing with a subset of the population that was very particular and probably more educated than the median sample. And then suddenly we were opening the phone lines up to everybody in the world. Whoosh! Oh, and I had no idea how stupid some people were. Not everybody, but definitely some.
It's refreshing to get such a different perspective, you know?
Right.
I'll play this first one.
Yes.
What's going on, Bo and Sean? This is Keith from New Orleans. My voice is currently shot, but I've got a story about not the dumbest person, but the dumbest experience that I've had working on a group project. It's either fall 2006 or spring 2007 in 10th grade English, and we have to do a project on a book that's been banned at some point in history. This project includes a written report and a visual presentation, and I'm partnered up with my boys, Jeff, Josh, and Henderson, and we've got Fahrenheit 451. And I say their names because, one, we remain friends to this day. Jeff was actually in my wedding. And two, because they knew they were wrong then, and they know they're wrong now. So my high school was a boarding and day school, like an hour outside of New Orleans in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. And I ended up having to go to boarding school because of past behavior issues. I was the only boarder in the group, so when we were divvying up the task the day before it was due because of procrastination, we agreed that I would do the report because I was the only one in the group that had actually read Fahrenheit 451, and the other three would get together at Josh's house and do the visual aid. So I finished up about 2:30 in the morning and let them know I'm done. And they say they're still going, but we'll be good for tomorrow. Next day comes and we meet up, and I don't see like a poster or a shoebox or anything I'm expecting for a visual aid, and that, you know, it shouldn't fit in the backpack. So I'm like, where's it at? They hung their heads and produced a singed copy of Fahrenheit 451. You mean to tell me y'all motherfuckers were up all night and all y'all managed to do was lightly tar the book? Okay. Now, I didn't say anything to the teacher because that's not how I comport myself, but you could tell she knew what was up. I don't remember if we got different grades, but that's the story I stick to because it makes for a better retelling of it. All right, y'all. Peace.
Sean, I'm a little stuck on the fact that he got to go to the, like, I thought that was one of them schools they built so he couldn't go to it.
Those kind of boarding schools? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Wow. Had no idea. But wow. So they just lightly puts, wow. I'm back.
I think you were allergic to the idiocracy.
Yes.
That, yeah.
I'm allergic to the bullshit. That's what it was.
All right, here's our next one.
All right, Bomani, I got a story for you. I used to work out in Michigan, and as you know, Michigan really doesn't play with their friendly neighborhood laws regarding consumption. Anyways, we used to have multiple mobile stations, including staff that would drive and then meet us at a final location. I had one staff who was giving me problems for 6 weeks. I tried to let him go gracefully. My boss said no because he happened to be a third cousin of the owner. Anyways, he is 4 hours late to our meetup. I finally get a hold of this gentleman, and turns out he got pulled over for doing 30 miles over in some small county in Michigan, and they were giving him no shortage of tickets, 5 in total. He was there for quite a while. He's got a summons coming up. Anyways, I'm this fellow's boss, and he gives me a call, and he says to me, you know, it's a really good thing they didn't actually search my bag, because I got a bunch of weed in there, and that would have been a real felony. Anyways, I had to report this up the chain. Boss's third cousin and all did not matter, but that gentleman was not only let go, but left to deal with all of his tickets. Thanks a lot, Bo. Love the show, and hope to hear this on it.
You just said a little bit too much, huh, Sean? Just.
Yep.
This that being white, man. Like, you just feel like, hey, nothing ever. Like, I am just omnipresently aware of the potential for worst case scenario. And I hear stories like that, and I just be like, yeah, some people just didn't grow up like I did at all. Ain't that something?
Yeah, like I'm almost like, oh, you know, maybe the boss did snitch, but like there's no case for snitching for someone being that stupid and that.
No. You got to tell on him because at some point he's going to do something so stupid that it's going to mess up everything. Like, you got to get him out of here before he burns the place down.
It was probably ended up being beneficial for him, but
yes.
quite stupid. Here's our last one.
Hey, Bo. Hey, Sean. I want to just preface this conversation by saying, like, there are many people who are active duty service around the American military that are very fascinating and wonderful people. On my second ship, it's one of many places where you discover the hard way that people don't exactly join the Navy because their life is going good. It just is what it is, especially for enlisted. But again, met some wonderful, wonderful people. But this one time, there was this young man, he's a very fascinating creature. He basically has like this whole credit card scheme. You would have to get him to explain it to you, but he has like 40 credit cards and he like buys them and does with stuff with specific, like he buys credit cards with specific things, uses specific rates, and like, I don't know how he's able to afford that on an E3 salary at the time, but you know what? Inshallah, my business. But the dumbest thing that I've ever heard, and we were on watch, it was a 4-hour watch, we were just trying to, you know, make it through the day because we were still transiting from somewhere in East Asia back to where we were stationed. And this man was saying, we were talking about planets, we were talking about stars. Mind you, we are mariners, so stars in the world being round is like a real thing for us. So this man unironically said, he said, hey, like, you guys don't really believe in like planets and stuff, right? And we're like, what? And he said, no, I mean, it's like, you know, he basically, the conclusion was that the only celestial body that's real is the sun and the moon. But like Mars, Jupiter, and all these other things, it's just a big scheme by big telescope and a very elaborate scheme to keep us all together. He basically doesn't really believe in planets. And I've heard of flat earther theory. I've heard of other things. This broke me. This broke my body and broke my spirit. I was ready to give up and resign from being in the Navy altogether at that moment because I was determined that we were doomed as a people. Love the show. Love what y'all do. Appreciate you, man.
The mere idea of big telescope did it for me.
Yes, big telescope is wild.
And me, it wouldn't even be big telescope. It would be like big textbook, right? Big classroom poster, big mobile,
like
right?
Big scholastics, you know, books
yes.
in science.
Yes, like the people who create visual aids, big science fair. I would have thought that they were the ones who would have been responsible for this.
The fact that he's a mariner and his job requires this information, and he only knew believed that the moon and the sun were a thing is quite alarming.
He's right though. Nobody signs up for the Navy because their grades was good. Not that nobody has good grades, but that's not why anybody did that. Sean, do you have prize picks for the people?
I sure do. Big Monday night football matchup, Battle of Texas, Houston Texans versus the Dallas Cowboys. Joe Mixon, 0.5 rush reception touchdowns. I'll take more there. Nico Collins, who's finally healthy and returning for the Texans, much needed. 71.5 receiving yards. I'll take more there. And Rico Dowdle, 13 rush attempts, knowing Cooper Rush is the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys at the moment. I feel like they're going to run the ball quite frequently, so I'm going to take Rico Dowdle to have more than 13 rush attempts.
Wise play, my brother, wise play. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. Be sure to check out The Right Time YouTube channel. Lots of YouTube exclusive content there, The Right Time YouTube channel. My man Sean Yu handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Also, thanks to our If You Haven't Heard contributors. Thanks to Reese Rogers of Wired. Check out her story about the new social app, well, not new, but the social app Blue Sky at Wired.com. Thanks to Kristen Brown of The Atlantic. Check out her story on genetic discrimination at TheAtlantic.com. And thanks to David Zipper at Vox. Check out his story about the most dangerous roads in America. Remember, follow The Right Time, subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.